Well, joining me in studio this afternoon to chat a little bit about Budget 2017 expectations, I'm joined by global market analyst, Mr. Mzuyanda Mfuku. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you for joining us here on ANN7.
Afternoon, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Just talk to us about your expectations ahead of tomorrow's budget speech.
Speaking from a young entrepreneur's perspective, for me, what's key is what the minister will say with regards to the economic transformation. We need radical economic transformation. We need a lot of young entrepreneurs and small businesses to be inserted into the value chain of production and manufacturing in this country.
And with regards to radical economic transformation, this is something we heard President Jacob Zuma speak about and touch on during the State of the Nation address. Specifically with regards to young people, how do you think the best way to implement this would be? And let's take a look back at the last budget speech. How do you think things have been implemented? Are you happy with that as a young entrepreneur?
Yes, something has been done, but not enough. So the key department for me is the small business department. So we need a lot of support for Minister Zulu's department. You know, we need small businesses to be trained to access basically your mining sectors, your agricultural sectors, to be more involved in taking the raw products and making them into final product. You know, that creates employment, that creates small businesses, and that creates economic growth as well.
And on the topic of young South Africans, we have to touch on obviously the issue of education. In the past, we've seen hashtag Fees Must Fall come to the fore, the youth asking for more money for education, for free education in South Africa. Are you expecting the Minister of Finance to touch on issues around education?
I hope he does, because the inequality in education still remains. Those that have access to your former Model C schools, yes, there are opportunities there for them to get a better education. But in most cases, the majority of our country is not exposed. Kids still don't have computer labs and science labs. So, we saw a protest in the Eastern Cape of kids lining up on the street because they study outside anyway. So in order to change inequality in this country, the levels of education need to be the same. So we need the government and economic development and DTI and all these guys, but mostly Department of Education needs to focus on training kids to know how to manufacture, to know how to weld, to know how to be boiler makers, because we can't all do BComs, because the economy needs to grow into manufacturing so that we produce our own, employ young people, and be able to export what we make.
What do you make of this 28 billion rand target that's been set out by Treasury and the ways and means to collect that sort of money?
Look, in terms of collecting, SARS will be involved. They're getting better and better in collecting the money. But for me as well, collection is there, What's key, once again, I don't want to be bogged down into collections of money. It's what then happens with that 28 billion. How does it filter down to the small business owner, to the young business owned, to the women-owned businesses, So that's key for me. We need to know. The minister must be clear. We want support for small business. We want support for emerging women-owned, black-owned businesses.
And we're also expecting, obviously, some sort of tax increase. Where do you think the minister will go with this?
I hope he doesn't go to VAT, because once you go to VAT, it affects everyone in the country. It also affects your poor of the poorest, because VAT is charged on everything. So I'm hoping he will increase your marginal tax rate for your high earners. So then that helps with the fiscus, brings more money into the economy and helps to develop the economy going further.
And with regards to economists coming forward and stating that, stability, consistency and things of that nature is needed for South Africa and for our economy, how does something like that get achieved? Through what?
Basically, what's key for global markets especially is policy. And policy has always been clear with government. Whatever they say they're going to change, for instance, the land issue, the economic transformation issue, it will be done lawfully. It will be done through parliament, laws will be changed legally. So there'll be nothing unlawful that will be done. There'll be no land grabbed illegally. So once policy certainty is there, investors are comfortable, and then we'll see money coming into the country.
Besides tax, there's also talk around the fuel levy being increased. I don't know how well informed you are about that, but does that necessarily mean that the price of fuel will increase as well if the fuel levy is increased?
Yeah, the fuel levy is already there. It's already part of the petrol price. So if it gets increased, yes, it will impact the price of petrol. But more than the fuel levy, what impacts the price of petrol more is the rand. So a weaker rand really does impact because we import oil at a dollar-based price. So which then ties into that whole rand thing that's been going on in the news. So more than the fuel levy, I think the rand is more of a key proponent of making sure that the fuel price is stabilized. So we need to find some stability to the rand. And yeah, going forward, I hope that comes.
And touching on the issue of the rand, obviously, as a global market analyst, I just want to get your 2 cents and your view with regards to the issue around bank collusion, around the fixing of the rand to dollar rate, and the issues around the Minister of Finance. Just your views and comments.
Look, the dollar collusion, I think Citibank came out yesterday.
Yes.
It admitted they're going to pay 69 million rand, I think. So I think there definitely was collusion. Whether it was to appreciate or depreciate the rand, I think that's yet to come out. But regardless of that, we can't have market makers deciding and chatting on chats and, price fixing the rand. We can't do that. It must be controlled by the market, and then that's how it should be. So if these guys are out there doing it, I'm glad that the Competition Commission is on it and they're doing something about it. The rand is very key because it determines how we do in terms of trade balance and all those things. So it's quite a key proponent of our economy. And, it also affects our inflation and interest rates and all that. It's not just about the rand, it's about, how it affects exports and imports and all that. So.
And with regards to the South African banks that have been implicated here, do you think it would be in their best interest to follow suit like Citibank has and follow in their footsteps?
Yeah, actually, it would be. And I'm hoping that the Competition Commission goes beyond this 10% of revenue. Because what you'll find that they'll say 10% of revenue, but that will only focus on that sector or that department of the bank, not the whole bank. So I'm hoping they will, crack the whip and make it total revenue of these businesses, not just the trading or currency department, so to speak.
And tomorrow we will be hearing, obviously, from the Minister of Finance. Quite a controversial question, but he's been, there's been this cloud around him and how much responsibility he needs to take for the collusion of these banks. Do you think it will be wise for the Minister of Finance to touch on this issue to come tomorrow? Or not the time, not the place?
Yeah, but he has to. I mean, the global markets are looking to hear what he has to say about it. So he can't avoid it. We need to hear what he thinks about it. And I think in order to stabilize global markets, the finance minister needs to say something.
Indeed. Any closing remarks ahead of the budget 2017?
Once again, let's focus on small businesses. Let's focus on the small business department and develop our own manufacturing. Stop importing everything. Let's manufacture and export.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mfuku, for your time this afternoon. We appreciate you talking to us. That was a global market analyst, Mr. Mzuyanda Mfuku, just talking to us about his expectations ahead of the budget speech 2017.